Welcome to Voices of the Community, which explores critical issues facing Northern California communities. We introduce you to the voices of community thought leaders and change makers who are working on solutions that face our fellow individual community members, neighborhoods, cities, and our region. This is George Koster, your host. This episode is part of our series exploring COVID-19's impact on nonprofits and small businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area. Back in April of 2020, when we decided to create this ongoing series on COVID-19's impact, first on nonprofits and then on small businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area, we, like you, had no idea how long the pandemic would go on and what the health and economic impact would be in our community. As we enter our second year of the global COVID-19 pandemic, with record numbers of both cases and deaths, our schools, businesses, and governments are still struggling to deal with the health, economic, mental, and societal impacts of the latest Omicron variant. This all adds to the ongoing uncertainty of our ever-changing indoor and outdoor, vaccinated and unvaccinated protocols, and the politics of the pandemic that will drive how we all come back together as a unified or fractured community. We will continue to shine a spotlight on the nonprofits and small businesses that make up the fabric of our community, along with the founders and staff who are struggling to deal with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on their operations, services, and sustainability until we can all get to the other side of the pandemic. Along the way, we will also share with you all the amazing solutions that our nonprofits, small businesses, foundations, and government leaders are working on to help us all get to the other side of the pandemic and come together to rebuild our communities with more economic, social, and environmental equality.
So typically about 90% of women who experience homelessness also experience violence and abuse, and one of the best ways to create a safe space for anyone who's female identified is to have gender-specific spaces and services. And so that's really what the impact of the event is all about, is helping us continue on that mission.
This is the Chief Operating Officer of Community Forward SF, Sammy Raynar. In Episode 5, at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in the spring of 2020, we featured Sammy and Community Forward SF's work with our unhoused community members, especially our transgender, LGBTQ, and people who female identify. According to a 2020 National Alliance to End Homelessness point-in-time count, the number of adult transgender individuals experiencing homelessness increased 88% since 2016, and the number experiencing unsheltered homelessness increased 113% during the same time period. Transgender individuals are disproportionately unsheltered. 63% are living in such situations. For comparison, 49% of cisgender people experiencing homelessness are unsheltered. The National Center for Transgender Equality estimates that 1 in 5 transgender individuals have experienced homelessness at some point in their lives. In this episode, we bring Sammy back, along with Felicia Torres and Polly Pop-Tart, to focus on Community Forward SF's upcoming drag show to end homelessness. To provide some comedic context to our conversation today about the drag show to end homelessness, we wanted to share a snippet from one of Polly Pop-Tart's stand-up comedy routines.
So some of you may not know my name, which is fine. Neither do most of the men that I've dated. So let me introduce myself. My name is Polly Pop-Tart, the original drag intro comedian. I do drag queen intros. Welcome to the stage, Carrie the One. Thank you. Carrie the One is a real queen. She always has her legs at the right angle.
I'm joined remotely by the Chief Operating Officer, Sammy Raynar, and Director of Development, Felicia Torres of Community Forward SF, along with Polly Pop-Tart, drag queen, stand-up comedian, and performer. Welcome to Voices of the Community, Polly, Felicia, and Sammy. Let's begin with Sammy providing the audience just an overview of Community Forward SF and your services and programs.
Thank you. Community Forward is a collection of vital programs that serves San Francisco's most vulnerable unhoused residents. And since 1995, we've been offering programming really targeted at cis and trans women and gender nonconforming individuals across the city. And that's really one of our foundational pieces of our program, and something that this drag show we're going to talk about today will focus on.
And staying with you, Sammy, and the drag show, could you provide our audience just a background on why Community Forward San Francisco created the annual drag show to end homelessness?
Well, first of all, we think that you raise more funds when you throw a good party. So we wanted to have a fundraiser that was really engaging and also that speaks to the work that we do around LGBTQ homelessness. Just as a frame of reference, those who identify as LGBTQ are about 3 times more likely to experience homelessness than the general population. And so we wanted to not only uplift the issue of homelessness, but specifically have a fundraiser that was themed around the needs for LGBTQ individuals in our city.
Thank you. And turning to you, Polly, could you provide the audience just a background on your drag show performances? I love the 365-day experience, which sounds like a record.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess I started drag consistently around 2018 and did a 365 Days of Drag Names project where I did a different video every day for a year, which was kind of my start as a performer, but I've been involved in community engagement and nonprofit events since my early teen years. So I'm going to age myself a little bit, but I'd say for the last 15 to 16 years, I've been involved with nonprofit events. I was the events director for a volunteer nonprofit for a couple of years in San Francisco. And when I got the call, or when I got the request from Community Forward SF, they wanted to have a drag show to end homelessness. I learned a little bit more about the organization, and it just seemed like a fit.
And staying with you, Polly, the Impulse SF, could you share a little bit more about that organization?
Yeah, Impulse SF is a queer men's sexual health nonprofit that does a lot of events in the sexual health space, trying to merge what's important, what's valuable to our community, and what's fun.
And then share with us your whole background with the drag show to end homelessness. It sounds like you were one of the creators, along with Cara, who's the ED of Community Forward SF, who could be with us today.
I don't know about that. I came in to help host a show and use some of my previous experience to help just tweak it in a direction that I thought made sense. And so we had the show in, I feel like I was reached out to in winter, like late 2019. And, they had this idea of wanting to have a drag show to end homelessness. I brought a few of my performer friends in on the experience. And, I do stand-up comedy as my primary source of entertainment, but I'm also a former competitive gymnast. So I put together a few things for myself. The other performers were live singers, traditional lip sync drag artists, and we did what we could to make everyone's experience special. And I think as anyone who went to the event will ascertain, I think we did a pretty good job.
I think that was a very humble offering. Polly really brought the show together. And I just want to pause on a visual for the audience, since this is radio, but just have a visual of Polly in 4-inch stiletto heels doing back handsprings on a stage. This isn't an average drag show. This is really like stepping it up an extra level. So I think you have to take a little more credit.
Thank you, Sammy. You're too kind.
Polly, turning back to you, could you please share with us how you came up with the themes, the first theme for the first show back in 2020, and then this year's a Stepping Out theme? So No Place Like Home was the first year theme. Please share with the audience why the themes, what they mean to you.
Yeah, so what I look for in a theme is that it can be as many things as possible, and it can mean so much to so many different people in so many different ways. The first year, There's No Place Like Home. A lot of us know that quote from The Wizard of Oz. So we had a little bit of a Wizard of Oz theme in our first year show. And the idea was that we were building a base. I think a lot of the members of Community Forward SF, they really appreciate what they could do with more traditional fundraisers, but they didn't just want this to be a one-year thing that they tried once. They really had the vision of having this be an event that is an annual thing that people look forward to, that excites people and brings up a sense of nostalgia. So I think having a theme like No Place Like Home to start was a really great foundation for what they're building upon and what we're building upon. And I think that one of the things that happens is that, all right, you have that base layer. Once people have housing, what do you do next? You want to build upon it. So the theme this year is Stepping Out. And I don't think I was the one that came up with it, but I really loved this idea because housing for a lot of people is not the end goal. They want housing to allow them to build their lives up from there. And this idea of housing first is so important. And I think that the theme of stepping out is inspiring because it brings people this idea that there is something beyond housing that we can do now, that more people are housed, and that you have this ability to step out into the world and figure out what you want to become. And it really does align well to, coming out of the closet is another way of looking at it. And I think that ties back really well to the theme, because queer people come out of the closet, and then often trans people, they come out twice. They first come out as queer, and then they come out as trans. And for many people who come out as trans, that is an additional challenge because there are additional healthcare implications for that. And I'm really excited for what we're going to be bringing next month for this event. And I'm really excited for people to come in and experience it for themselves.
Thank you. That was great. Think back to Sammy's earlier point in our conversation and why Community Forward SF is really focused on the LGBTQ community and the trans community is so many trans community members end up without housing because they come out as trans and they're forced out by family members. So, Sammy, what are the thoughts about this year's show? Is the show going to be in person? Is it going to be virtual?
Yeah, so this year's show is going to be in person at El Rio. We're very grateful to El Rio. They have an large outdoor patio space. So there will be accommodation for COVID precautions to be able to be outside, vaccinated, of course. And the event is going to model a bit of what we did last year. And maybe this would be a good time, Polly, to share a little more about some of our other performers that the audience can look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. So the other two performers that we have joining us this year are Amora Tees, who is a staple fixture of San Francisco nightlife, is a full-time drag performer and an artist. On a more professional level, I would say that Amora is on stage 5 to 6 nights a week plus. I mean, sometimes they have 2 shows at a night. And Amora is a drag artist through and through. I like to say vertical integration drag. She sews, she does her own hair, she sings live. She's got a beautiful singing voice. And she really brings a sense of heart to everything that she does. I had the distinct pleasure during the pandemic of having Amora help me out with a couple of looks. She needed some work, I needed some costumes, and we really collaborated on a few looks that I now have as part of my standard drag portfolio. I'm really grateful to her for that. And then the other performer, last but certainly not least, is Lucinda Puss. Obviously, we love a pun name. It's one of our favorite things to see in a drag queen. Lucinda was actually one of the queens who I did for my 365 Days of Drag Names project. And I met her at Oaklash, and we just sort of became friends. I think she has a really quirky sense of humor. She's like a goth neon kitty is kind of like her aesthetic. And I know that those things don't normally sound like they go together. Like all of those things in your head are mutually exclusive. Goth, neon, kitty. But somehow it all works together. And I will say that she has one of the most succinct brands in all of drag. She's also a pastry chef, which I feel like just adds a little bit of cherry on top for her as a performer.
No pun intended, I'm sure. I would direct everyone to the Eventbrite, and I'll embed it in the webpage for the episode as well. But her costuming and makeup is quite amazing. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so whereas I think Amora has really got a really good job of blending and having soft, natural features, which is an entire art in and of itself, Lucinda describes herself as heavy-handed with the makeup brush and really is trying to create a whole different type of experience. And I think one of the wonderful things about drag is that you can take the features that you're given as a human and do so many things with them, whether that's within gender or going the sphere of special effects and really creating something non-human or beyond human.
And I love the fact that the only beat she could find is in a salad.
Some queens are dancers. I would definitely put Amora in that category. I can be with the right beat. And I think dancing to your own beat is also a talent that I think more people should embrace.
So, Sammy, walk us through the show. So this year's show is going to be outside at El Rio, and you could buy tickets. Will it also be streamed as well, or just in person?
In person, and potentially with some video highlights that we can send out to folks who donate and aren't able to attend but want to catch a few highlights.
And Polly, can you walk us through the show? You're going to be the MC, of course.
I am. So as a stand-up comedian, I have a new set that I've been working on for the last few months, which I'm really excited to bring to Community Forward SF. I don't love people seeing me do the same set twice. So I'm, constantly trying to come up with new material. So we'll have some stand-up comedy. Maura will be doing some live singing, as well as I think a lip sync number. I'll be doing a couple lip sync numbers, and then Lucinda will also be doing a few lip syncs. Lip sync is, I'll say, the drag staple is what most people think of when they think of a drag performance. So we really want to honor what's traditional and also give you, a little extra.
One of those extras, and Polly, maybe you'll describe it better than me, but drag roulette is something that was very popular in 2020 and will be back this year. Do you want to take a stab at kind of explaining roulette, Polly?
I would love to. It's like my favorite thing is talking. So drag roulette is a little something. I performed in New York City a couple of years ago, and they did this thing called drag roulette, and I'd never heard of it before. But it's basically when the audience gets to choose the songs that the queens lip sync. So when you show up to a drag show, you are there to engage in the art that the performers have been working on and perfect over time. And it's really wonderful to see the type of, polished, detailed, and really practiced material that we've spent so much of our time owning. But one of the really just biggest treasures in drag is seeing a queen who is not prepared do a song that you decide and just see how we can improvise it. And I think it's also really fun because people got to see some of their favorite songs and their favorite pieces be interpreted in a way that maybe they never thought it would be. And we did a little something special last time. I guess that's what Sammy's probably trying to get at. So with the way that we had Drag Roulette last time, and I think that we'd like to do that again this time, is we had members of the audience. They had the ability to designate a person to have the lip sync sung to or dedicated to. But we didn't just point them out in the audience. Oh no. We brought them up on stage. So they get to have this personal art delivered to them in just the most public way possible, making sure that everyone's in on the joke and having fun, but also maybe just embarrassing them just enough.
I like it. It's great. So if it's someone's birthday, for example, this would be a great event to bring them to.
It would be a great event to bring them to, and it's a really easy birthday gift to give them because you show up and let us do the work.
I mean, I can't imagine a better birthday present.
And everyone loves that, right? Just show up and let someone else do the work.
Exactly. Yeah, everyone wants to feel like the star on their birthday. You are a star. We'll bring you up on stage.
And if you really don't want to be a star, you can pay to get off to not have to come up onto the stage. So there is a little bit of bidding fun that comes out of it.
Let me ask Felicia, how can folks who are listening to the show participate in the drag show to end homelessness, Stepping Out? Buy tickets?
Yeah, there are a number of ways that people can support this year's event. Of course, you can purchase a ticket or purchase tickets for you and your friends and join us in person. Again, March 10th at El Rio. I have not yet experienced the event myself, but I'm very excited to be a part of this event this year. And from what I've heard and from what Polly and Sammy are sharing today, it's going to be a wonderful event that you don't want to miss. So we have tickets at every price level for individuals and for groups. We also have corporate sponsorships available. If you can't make the event, you can make a direct donation to support the event on our event. And lastly, you can help us get the word out about this fun and impactful event. Share it with your friends, with your family, with your greater network, and on social media. Really, this is a wonderful event, and we want anyone and everyone to participate in this event. It's a good time. Come and have a good time with us at Community Forward SF at El Rio on March 10th.
Thank you. And turning back to you, Sammy, for a moment, this is the second year of the event. Can you share with the audience a little bit about what do you feel the impact of last year's drag show was to Community Forward SF's mission and helping our unhoused community members?
Thanks, George. Yeah, this event was actually not last year. It was in 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And I think I can speak to specifically, I think it was 1 month later that we were suddenly in lockdown, and having that wave of support from the event going into that was so critical for us to adapt and respond really quickly. We worked with the city to open 4 of the shelter-in-place hotels within just a couple of months of the show last year. So Community Forward has been part of housing hundreds of people during the pandemic, and I'd say especially important to our impact as an organization is we were the only ones operating a women-focused shelter-in-place hotel. So typically about 90% of women who experience homelessness also experience violence and abuse. And one of the best ways to create a safe space for anyone who's female identified is to have gender-specific spaces and services. And so that's really what the impact of the event is all about, is helping us continue on that mission.
Thank you. And turning to you, Polly, could you share with the audience one of your favorite moments of the last drag show?
I'm so glad you asked. Really, there are so many things that come up to me. And I think one of the biggest ones has to be just the lead up to the event and just walking through the front door. I want to say the first time that we did this event, it was a little bit on a prayer, dream, and a lot of extra hot glue. This event was put together so quickly and so effectively with everyone who was there supporting. The moment that I walked through the door, I felt like we had done such a great job. I felt we had such a huge success before it had even started. And I know that the organization surpassed its fundraising goal last time, and they set a stretch goal and they were able to surpass that. I think what was really special is that we felt that the moment the show started, and it made the rest of the show just go off so spectacularly. And I think for a lot of people, this being right before lockdown, it was one of the last times that people were together, joyful, and exuberant, and also generous, right before one of the biggest challenges of our time. And I think as we're kind of exiting a certain phase right now, I think it really has the same opportunity in people's lives to be something similar, where it is a great spark to a new phase that we're entering.
And Sammy, favorite moments of the last drag show?
Well, I already named Polly in 4-inch stilettos doing a back handspring. So
that is quite the image as well.
But yeah, I also want to pick up that thread of there was a general feeling at the very end of the show. We had our team all walk up onto the stage with signs saying "It takes us all." And that's kind of our slogan. If you've heard our CEO, Kara Zordell, speak before, that's one of her kind of mottos. And it really was, it felt like a family coming together, a tight community coming together. And I think that is a lot to do with Polly's warm presence and passion for the work as a performer, as well as just the passion of everyone in our community who comes really cares about this work. And, I met so many wonderful people at the event.
Thank you. And turning to you, Felicia. So it's March 10th, 7 to 10 o'clock at El Rio, which is at 3158 Mission Street in San Francisco. And I'll have the Eventbrite in my information on this episode. So besides folks buying a ticket, can folks volunteer? And also, besides this event, how else can they support Community Forward's ongoing efforts to help our unhoused community?
Yes, great question. We can't do this work without the support of our guests and without the support of the community. As Sammy mentioned, at Community Forward SF, we say it takes us all, and it really does. There are a number of ways that people can support our work. Folks can check out our website, communityforwardsf.org, to learn more about our programs. You can also make a donation on our website. There are a number of other ways that you can make a donation, including mailing a check to us. And you can visit our website to learn what those other ways are that you might be able to make a donation. In-kind donations, we accept new and gently used clothing and shoes for men and women, unopened hygiene products, among other items. And there is a list on our website of items that we accept for in-kind donations. And in terms of volunteering, throughout the pandemic, our priority has been to keep our guests and our staff members safe. So we've had limited opportunities to volunteer in person at our sites. We are working to formalize our volunteer programs, and we hope to make an announcement in the fall about what those volunteer opportunities might be. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we are always looking for volunteers who are interested in lending their skills or possibly interning with Community Forward SF. Some areas that come to mind where we are looking for volunteers or interns are graphic design, marketing communications, Salesforce database support and management, just to name a few, George. And for those that are interested in volunteer opportunities, you can email us at info@communityforwardsf.org to learn more.
And staying with you, Felicia, you had mentioned, sponsorship of the show. Can you share with the audience a little bit how someone who would be interested, whether it's a corporation, a person, how would I become a sponsor?
Yes, that's a great question. You can become a sponsor by purchasing a sponsorship package on our Eventbrite. You'll see on the Eventbrite, all of our sponsorship packages are listed there. You can also email us at sponsorships@communityforwardsf.org. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. And yes, these sponsorship opportunities are for individuals, are for corporations, for really anyone who's just interested in being a part of the event and supporting the work that we're doing.
Thank you. And then I'm just going to segue over to my final question for all of my listeners who's been listening to the special series that goes back to March of 2020. I've been asking everyone, what do they think are some of the good and positive things that have come out of the pandemic to support both our unhoused and low-income community members? And I'm going to start with you, Sammy.
I like this question. For us, prior to COVID, we operated a Woman's Place drop-in center. And that center was started really not thinking of it as an overnight program or only an overnight program for women in crisis. Fast forward 20 years, our homeless problem in San Francisco has become what it is today. And there's not enough room in the shelters. There's not enough room in housing. And so over time, we had women sleeping in a plastic chair in our drop-in. Because of the pandemic, the city really invested in these shelter-in-place hotels. And now the current plans are to double down on investment in supportive housing. So we no longer have women sleeping in chairs in the drop-in, they're sleeping in a bed in a hotel. And that's a silver lining for me, is that women in their 50s, 60s, 70s have their own bed. And we're really marching forward with that, wanting to create more housing opportunities for women.
And Felicia, how about you?
I think the biggest thing that has come out of the pandemic, and I'm kind of speaking generally, is just a greater awareness of racial disparities in literally everything from housing to education to healthcare and to food access. I think we all, individuals, government entities, corporations, and nonprofits, we're thinking differently. And I think we need to continue to think in this different way. We need to move forward and not backward to what our previous normal has been before the pandemic. I think we took some great steps during the pandemic, but we have a lot of work to do to continue to move forward, to continue to build a brighter future for everyone, especially for our unhoused and low-income community members. And I think lastly, what I've seen, working in nonprofits during the pandemic is I think nonprofits have learned that we're stronger together. We need to build stronger partnerships to really serve our communities. And I think during this time, we've all evaluated our programs and we began to rethink what's necessary to run our programs and to provide the support and the care for the communities that we serve.
Thank you. And Polly, circling back to you, what do you feel are some of the positive things that have come out of the pandemic?
I think there have obviously been a lot of people who have felt a lot of loss, and I do want to acknowledge that first and foremost. I think one of the big things on the positive side to come out of the pandemic is that when you force people to pause, they reevaluate a lot, both in their own lives and in their community. And one of the things that I saw in the performer world frequently is people showing up for performers, artists, and a lot of workers that require them to be there in person. So I guess frontline workers, and doing what they can and asking what they can do to help them. One of the things that drew me to Community Forward SF that really makes me so happy to come back here every year and help them out is that my partner, before I met them, was houseless for 2 years. And when they described that time in their life to me, it's something that I know that a resource like Community Forward would have been very helpful for them. And I can now share this semi-confidently now. We actually had an offer put down on a house and it was accepted recently. So we are actually going to be homeowners pretty soon. And we're very excited for that.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. I remember Sammy saying that housing is healthcare in our interview back in March of 2020. And folks can go listen to episode 5, which is lots more information about Community Forward SF. So is there anything I haven't asked you all today that you would like to cover before we wrap up?
This has been great, George. We really appreciate you as an individual continuing to be a supporter and giving voice to the work that we do so that we can continue to grow and spread our impact.
Well, thank you. Love Cara and all of what Community Forward SF's doing, and the fact that you've created a drag show to end homelessness. If we could just, make that like a weekly or monthly show across the city, just think what it would happen.
Tours coming 2023. Just stay tuned. Yeah.
Right. So I want to thank Sammy and Felicia for sharing Community Forward SF's programs and services and work today, along with the information on the annual drag show to end homelessness, Stepping Out. And I also want to thank Polly for sharing their performance background and participation in the annual drag show to end homelessness, Stepping Out. And we'll make sure that listeners have your contact information, website, the Eventbrite information, social media, so folks can buy tickets, hopefully become a sponsor to the annual drag show to end homelessness and to support Community Forward SF's programs and services, along with getting engaged in the work to help our unhoused community members in San Francisco. So please stay safe and healthy as we all work our way through this very strange new pseudo-normalcy. That's it for this episode of Voices of the Community. You've been listening to the voices of the Chief Operating Officer, Sammy Raynar, and Director of Development, Felicia Torres of Community Forward SF, along with Polly Pop-Tart, drag queen, stand-up comedian, and performer. To purchase tickets or to become a sponsor for the drag show to end homelessness, Stepping Out, go to communityforwardsf.org and click on Get Involved. You can make a donation and find out more about Community Forward SF's housing programs and support services at communityforwardsf.org. We hope that you'll take the time to listen back to Episode 5 of our special COVID-19 series that features Sammy Raynar and the work of Community Forward SF to provide housing and support for unhoused community members. We hope that you enjoyed the insights, points of view, and personal stories from the voices of changemakers and their nonprofits and small businesses featured in this series. To find out more and get engaged with the nonprofits, small businesses, and staff members featured in the series, please go to my website, georgecoster.com, and click on Voices of the Community to find links to the extended versions of these interviews and to listen to the entire series. After listening to these stories, we hope that you will consider making a donation and volunteering to provide a hand up to your fellow community members. Today's episode was made possible by the audio wizard and our associate producer, Eric Estrada, and the graphics magic of Casey Nance from Citron Studios, along with the wonderful crew at the San Francisco Public Press and KSFP. Voices of the Community is supported by a grant from the James Irvine Foundation, dedicated to a California where all low-income workers have the power to advance economically. More at irvine.org. Voices of the Community is a member of Intersection for the Arts, which allows us to offer you a tax deduction for your contributions. Please go to georgecoster.com and click on the donate link to make a donation to help us provide future shows just like this one. While you're on our website, you can enjoy our archived past shows, which feature community voices working on solutions to critical issues facing Northern California communities. And you can sign up for our newsletter to find out more about future shows, as well as shows and events from the organizations that are included in our episodes. Take us along on your next COVID walk by subscribing to Voices of the Community on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at George Coster, and we'd love to hear from you with feedback and show ideas, so send us an email to george@georgecoster.com. I'm George Coster in San Francisco, and thank you for listening.